Operation Revenant. The darkness of space swallowed the INS Revenant whole as its experimental stealth systems engage. Commander Ilara Hayes felt the familiar tightness in her chest, not from fear, but from the crushing weight of responsibility. The mission was simple on paper: infiltrate Meridian space, gather intelligence on their fleet movements, and return to Earth Command. In reality, it was likely a suicide mission. Stealth systems holding at 98% efficiency, Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov reported from the tactical station. We're effectively invisible to standard Meridian sensors. For now, Hayes replied, her eyes fixed on the main view screen where the imposing silhouettes of Meridian warships hung against the backdrop of stars. Remember, their technology has surprised us before. The Meridian Collective had emerged from the shadows of the Orion Arm 3 years ago, an alliance of silicon-based life forms with technology centuries beyond humanity's reach. Their first contact message had been simple: surrender or be exterminated. Humanity chose neither. We're approaching the orbital defense grid around Cygnus IV, Navigator Imani Okafor announced. This is the closest we've ever gotten to one of their forward bases. Hayes nodded. Slow to 1/4 thrust. Begin passive scans only. The Revenant was humanity's newest weapon, a vessel designed not to match Meridian firepower, but to bypass it entirely. Its hull was coated with experimental metamaterials that absorbed sensor waves rather than reflecting them, and its engines were modified to leave minimal thermal signatures. If the theories of Earth scientists proved correct, they could slip right through the Meridian's vaunted defense network. I'm detecting unusual energy readings, Science Officer Dr. Ananya Patel reported, her voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through space. Old habits of stealth died hard. The configuration doesn't match any known Meridian weapons platform. Hayes moved to the science station, studying the holographic display. Can we get closer without being detected? I believe so, Dr. Patel replied, adjusting the sensor parameters. The Meridians appear to be focusing their sensor sweeps outward, not inward. They're not expecting threats inside their perimeter. The arrogance of presumed superiority, Hayes murmured. Tactical. Maintain our position relative to that large cruiser. Use its mass to mask our approach. For 6 tense hours, the Revenant drifted through the heart of the Meridian fleet base, recording everything: ship configurations, communication frequencies, deployment patterns. Each piece of data was potentially the key to humanity's survival. Commander, Dr. Patel called suddenly, her voice tight with urgency. I've isolated the source of those unusual energy readings. It's not a weapons platform. It's something much larger. The main view screen shifted to display a massive structure taking shape in the shadow of Cygnus IV's largest moon. Its design was unlike anything they'd seen before, not the angular crystalline architecture typical of Meridian vessels, but something more organic, more fluid. What am I looking at, Doctor? Hayes asked. Based on the energy signatures, it appears to be some kind of dimensional gateway. The power requirements are astronomical. Dr. Patel's fingers flew across her console. They're drawing energy directly from the quantum vacuum, a technology we've only theorized about. Hayes felt ice forming in her stomach. A gateway to where? Unknown, but the spatial coordinates appear to align with Earth. The implication hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. The Meridians weren't building another fleet. They were constructing a pathway to deliver their existing forces directly to humanity's doorstep, bypassing all defensive lines. We need to get this information back to Earth Command immediately, Hayes decided. Navigation. Plot the fastest course out of. Multiple energy spikes. Volkov shouted. They've detected us. The view screen flashed as Meridian vessels began to pivot toward the Revenant's position, their weapon systems powering up. How? Hayes demanded. Our stealth systems are still. They've deployed some kind of quantum detection grid, Dr. Patel explained frantically. It's identifying the discrepancies in spacetime created by our drive system. Evasive maneuvers, Hayes ordered. Maximum thrust. The Revenant lurched forward as its engines roared to life, abandoning stealth for speed. Brilliant beams of energy sliced through the space where they had been moments before. "They're vectoring to intercept," Volkov reported grimly. 6. No, 8 vessels moving to cut off our escape route. Hayes's mind raced through options, each worse than the last. The Revenant wasn't designed for direct combat against Meridian warships. Its strength was stealth, not firepower. "Dump all non-essential power to engines and shields," she ordered, "and prepare our sensor data for compressed transmission on an encrypted quantum channel." "Commander," Communications Officer Takai looked up sharply. "That data packet will be detected instantly. They'll trace the transmission back to us." "I'm aware." Hayes's voice was steel. "But this information needs to reach Earth even if we don't." A sudden impact rocked the ship as a Meridian energy weapon grazed their port shield. Damage reports flooded in from all decks. "Port shields down to 30%. Volkov called out. "They're herding us away from the jump point." Hayes studied the tactical display, noting the positions of the Meridian vessels. They were indeed forming a net, pushing the Revenant toward the system's asteroid belt, where their maneuverability would be compromised. "Dr. Patel, what if we redirected our shield energy into a concentrated burst from our main deflector? Could we create a localized disruption in their quantum detection grid?" The science officer blinked in surprise, then quickly ran calculations. "Theoretically, yes, but it would leave us completely vulnerable for approximately 7.2 seconds. Long enough to slip through their net if timed perfectly," Hayes concluded. "Navigation. Set course directly toward that gap between the cruiser and the destroyer. Tactical. Moment we fire the burst, go to maximum acceleration." As the crew prepared for their desperate gambit, Hayes activated the ship's secure recorder. "This is Commander Ilara Hayes of the Earth Alliance vessel INS Revenant. We have discovered a Meridian superweapon under construction in the Cygnus system, a dimensional gateway capable of transporting their entire fleet directly to Earth. Technical specifications and tactical data are attached to this transmission. The Meridian's detection systems operate on quantum principles, seeking disturbances in spacetime rather than conventional sensor returns. This may be their vulnerability. Revenant out." She encrypted the message with her command codes and loaded it into the communications system, ready for transmission the moment their disruption created an opening. "All stations report ready, Commander," First Officer Jackson announced. Hayes took a deep breath. "Execute." The Revenant's shields collapsed as all their energy was channeled through the main deflector. A brilliant pulse of energy erupted from the bow of the ship, creating a cascading failure in the nearby section of the Meridian detection grid. At the same instant, the ship's engines flared to life, pushing them toward the momentary blind spot. "Transmission away," Takai confirmed as the data packet rocketed toward the nearest human relay station. Meridian vessels responded immediately, converging on the Revenant's position. Energy weapons lashed out, scoring hits against the now unshielded hull. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4, someone shouted amid the chaos. "Keep going," Hayes ordered, gripping her command chair as the ship shuddered under the assault. "We just need tow." A massive impact threw her to the deck as a Meridian cruiser scored a direct hit on their primary drive section. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red as systems failed across the ship. "Main power offline," Volkov reported grimly. "We're dead in space." Hayes pulled herself back into her chair, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. On the view screen, Meridian vessels surrounded them, weapons primed for the kill shot. "Did the transmission clear the system?" she asked quietly. Takai checked his console. "Affirmative, Commander." The relay station acknowledged receipt before we lost communications. A grim smile touched Hayes's lips. Then the mission was a success. As the Meridian vessels closed in, the crew of the Revenant stood tall at their stations. They had delivered humanity's last, best hope for survival. And half a galaxy away, that hope was about to ignite. Impossible victory. Admiral Wei Chen stared at the data scrolling across his terminal, the contents of the Revenant's final transmission playing through his mind for the 5th time. 3 days had passed since they'd received Commander Hayes' desperate message, and in that time, Earth's remaining defenses had been reorganized around a desperate plan. The Revenant's sacrifice won't be in vain, he promised the empty room. A soft chime announced the arrival of his expected visitor. The door slid open to reveal Dr. Nasir Chen, his brother and Earth's most brilliant quantum physicist. Behind him followed a team of engineers and scientists, all wearing expressions of equal parts exhaustion and determination. "Tell me you found something," Admiral Chen said without preamble. Dr. Chen nodded, his eyes bright despite the dark circles beneath them. The Meridian's quantum detection system is both their greatest strength and their critical weakness. They've evolved to perceive reality through quantum fluctuations rather than electromagnetic signatures like we do. He gestured to one of his colleagues, who projected a holographic model of what appeared to be a modified missile. "We've created a weapon that generates a quantum cascade. Essentially, it creates thousands of false positives in their detection systems simultaneously. Their neural networks are optimized for precision. They won't be able to distinguish real targets from false ones." "How many can you produce in the next 48 hours?" the Admiral asked. "With every production facility working at maximum capacity." "Perhaps 200. Admiral Chen frowned. "Latest intelligence suggests the Meridian fleet numbers in the thousands." "We don't need to match them ship for ship," Dr. Chen explained. "Each cascade device affects a sphere of space approximately 500 kilometers in diameter. Properly deployed, 200 devices could cover our entire defensive formation." For the first time in months, hope flickered in Admiral Chen's chest. "And our offensive capabilities?" Another scientist stepped forward, Dr. Layla Iskander, Earth's foremost weapons developer. "We've modified our kinetic impactors based on the Revenant's data. The Meridians evolved on a low-gravity world and built their ships accordingly. Their hulls are optimized to withstand energy weapons, but have limited structural integrity against physical impacts." She displayed schematics for a mass driver system. "These fire ferromagnetic projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Their shields won't recognize them as weapons until impact, by which time it will be too late." Admiral Chen studied the plans, then nodded decisively. "Begin immediate production and retrofit as many vessels as possible." He turned to his tactical officer. "Recall all available ships to the Jupiter defense perimeter. If the Meridians are building a gateway to Earth, they'll need to position it where spatial distortion is minimal. The Earth-Moon L1 point is the most likely location." Over the next 2 days, humanity's remaining fleet, a patchwork of military vessels, retrofitted civilian ships, and hastily completed experimental craft, gathered in the shadow of Jupiter. Engineers worked around the clock to install the new weapons systems and quantum cascade devices, while tactical officers developed battle plans based on the Revenant's intelligence. Then, exactly as predicted, their long-range sensors detected a massive spatial distortion forming at the Earth-Moon L1 point. "All vessels, battle stations," Admiral Chen ordered as the fleet moved out from behind Jupiter, using the gas giant's mass to mask their approach. "Remember the Revenant. Remember Earth." The first Meridian ships began emerging from the dimensional gateway, massive crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them, their weapons already charging. Earth's remaining orbital defenses opened fire, but their energy beams dissipated harmlessly against the advanced shields. "They're deploying in standard formation," Tactical Officer Commander Dias reported, "exactly as the Revenant's data predicted." Admiral Chen nodded. "Initiate Operation Quantum Shadow." Across the human fleet, the modified vessels launched their quantum cascade devices, small missiles that streaked toward predetermined coordinates throughout the battlefield. The Meridians, detecting the launches, adjusted to intercept, but made no move to evade. Why would they? Their shields had proven impervious to human weapons thus far. When the devices detonated, there was no physical explosion, only a ripple of distortion that human sensors barely detected. But the effect on the Meridian fleet was immediate and dramatic. Their precisely coordinated movements deteriorated into chaos. Ships veered randomly, some colliding with others as their navigation systems received conflicting data. Their defensive fire became sporadic and misdirected. "They're blind," Dr. Chen whispered, watching the sensor feeds. "Their quantum perception is overwhelmed by false positives. They can't distinguish real objects from sensor ghosts." Admiral Chen didn't waste the opportunity. "All vessels with mass drivers, target the Meridian capital ships. Fire at will." Across the human fleet, electromagnetic catapults charged and released, launching massive ferromagnetic projectiles at relativistic speeds. The Meridians, their sensors overwhelmed by quantum noise, failed to detect the approach of these simple but lethal weapons. The impacts were devastating. Meridian vessels shattered under the kinetic force, their crystalline structures breaking apart in spectacular cascades of debris. Each destroyed ship added to the chaos, creating more obstacles for the disoriented survivors to navigate. "They're attempting to regroup," Commander Dias reported. "Their adaptation algorithms are trying to filter out the quantum noise. Launch the second wave of cascade devices," Admiral Chen ordered. Another wave of quantum distortion swept across the battlefield, renewing the Meridian's confusion. More human ships moved into firing position, their mass drivers launching deadly projectiles into the heart of the alien fleet. The gateway at the L1 point pulsed as more Meridian vessels attempted to pour through, directly into the chaos of battle. Several collided immediately with the debris of their destroyed companions, while others found themselves target-ed before they could even orient themselves. "Their command structure is breaking down," Commander Dias reported with barely contained excitement. "We're detecting contradictory order patterns in their communication networks." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "Focus fire on the gateway structure itself." The human fleet redirected their assault, mass drivers targeting the massive crystalline framework that formed the dimensional gateway. Unlike the Meridian ships, the gateway couldn't maneuver to avoid the incoming projectiles. The first impacts sent visible cracks through the structure. Energy began to leak from the damaged sections, creating distortion ripples that further disoriented nearby Meridian vessels. "The gateway is becoming unstable," Dr. Chen warned, studying his readings. "If it collapses while active." He never finished the sentence. The gateway structure, its quantum matrix compromised by multiple impacts, imploded in a spectacular release of energy. The dimensional rift collapsed inward, creating a momentary singularity that pulled in dozens of nearby Meridian ships before dissipating in a blinding flash. When the sensors cleared, over half the Meridian fleet had been destroyed or critically damaged. The remainder, cut off from reinforcements and unable to coordinate effectively through the quantum interference, began to retreat. "They're falling back to the outer system," Commander Dias confirmed. "Their formation is completely broken." A cheer erupted across the bridge, quickly spreading throughout the fleet as the news was relayed. Admiral Chen allowed himself a small smile, though he knew the war was far from over. "Pursue and engage," he ordered. "Don't give them time to regroup or adapt to our tactics." The human fleet pressed their advantage, harrying the retreating Meridians with continuous launches of quantum cascade devices, followed by devastating kinetic strikes. Ship after ship fell to the surprisingly simple strategy, unable to counter weapons they couldn't properly perceive. 12 hours later, Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Council, delivering his report on what was already being called the miracle at Earth. "The remaining Meridian vessels have withdrawn beyond Neptune's orbit," he concluded. "We've destroyed their gateway and delivered the first significant defeat they've ever experienced. But this is only the beginning." High Counselor Rodriguez leaned forward. "Can they build another gateway?" "Eventually, yes," Dr. Chen answered. "But the resource requirements are enormous. We estimate it would take them at least 2 years to construct another." "Then we have 2 years to prepare," Admiral Chen said firmly. The Revenant's data has given us more than just tactical advantages. It's provided insights into Meridian technology that our scientists are already working to counter and adapt. He looked around the council chamber, meeting each counselor's eyes in turn. For the first time since this war began, we have hope, not just of survival, but of victory. The council session concluded with the unanimous passage of the Hayes Initiative, an unprecedented mobilization of human resources toward both defensive measures and, for the first time, plans for offensive operations into Meridian space. In a private ceremony later that evening, Admiral Chen posthumously awarded Commander Ilara Hayes and the crew of the INS Revenant the Star of Terra, humanity's highest honor. Their sacrifice had not only saved Earth but had changed the course of the war. As he gazed up at the night sky, now free of the looming Meridian threat, Admiral Chen made a silent promise to his fallen comrades. Humanity would not merely survive this war, they would emerge from it stronger than ever before, ready to take their rightful place among the stars. The Meridians had made a critical error. They had underestimated humanity's greatest weapons: adaptability, ingenuity, and the fierce determination to survive against all odds. And that mistake had sealed their fate.